Awesome, everyone. So I'd love to introduce you to Dennis Gerber now by name, not just film preference,
Yeah.
and some details on his background. This is going to make you sound a little bit more prestigious, Dennis, and I'm glad we started off in the order that we did. I think that's it really humanizes you.
Yeah.
All right, so everyone knows Dennis is the president and CEO at Knights of Columbus Charitable Fund, as well as the director of marketing at the Knights of Columbus themselves. So the story of how he got there is one of the things that I wanted him to share with you guys, because it's one of the things that I really enjoyed hearing about. One of the first times I've gotten to one of the first introductions I had to Dennis, and I think it's probably going to resonate with a lot of the commitment questions that you guys are probably evaluating in your own initiatives too. So his journey to that position was great and inspiring. And along the way of that journey, you were the director of annual giving in North America as the American University in Cairo, an associate director and board member for the Archdiocese of New York, and the director of the Catholic Communal Fund. So he has that diocesan experience to draw on too. Dennis received his undergraduate degree from Rowan University and currently serves on multiple advisory boards, including St. Anne's Catholic School in Fair Lawn, New Jersey, and is a director of the Delta Kappa Epsilon Club of New York.
I just resigned that one, but
you what?
Yeah.
So that's a little bit on Dennis. That's what I call the LinkedIn stalking profile. And I've been so fortunate to hear the courageous profile and story that we want you guys to hear. But another aspect of why we thought this was helpful to you guys is, as we're thinking of Demo Day now coming up, Dennis is someone who's been interested in Demo Day in general, and the Knights of Columbus is someone who might be participating in different ways with this and future initiatives that we might do together. It's just helpful to know how they think through things. So how does the Charitable Fund at Knights of Columbus evaluate opportunities? So Dennis's professional story is inspiring, and also just where he sits right now, the hat he currently wears, what are the thoughts going underneath that hat. So Dennis, let me pass you the mic, and I can help moderate chat. And so you can look at it if you want, but if you're not looking and you're just focused on this, I'll steward any questions that come in that way.
Thank you, John Henry. This is really an honor for me to get the, I said I've shared my story, my larger story, cocktail talks, but I've never in a real professional setting. So this is an honor for me. I was a fallen away Catholic, and when was it? March 29, 2009 was the night I met my wife, March 27th. And that first night we met, she asked me 3 questions. She asked me if I was Catholic. I said yes. She said, "Do you go to Mass?" I said no. And then she said, "Well, why not?" And I said, I don't know, and I don't want to lie to you, so I don't know. She said, "Well, you should go tomorrow." So I said, okay. And she said, "Well, don't receive the Eucharist." I said, "Well, why not?" She said, "We'll talk about it over the week." And she lived in New Hampshire. I lived in New Jersey. And so I went to Mass that weekend. I didn't receive the Eucharist. That next weekend, I went to confession for the first time. She got me to go to confession. And then 6 months later, we were engaged. Fast forward, after we got married, she went to Franciscan University of Steubenville, had a friend of hers who worked at the Archdiocese of New York, and there's a opening at the Archdiocese in the development department. She said I should apply for it. So I thought it was a really great opportunity, applied for the opportunity, and I received, I got the job, fortunately. And I was one of 4 managing directors for our Cardinals annual appeal. So the annual appeal for the Archdiocese of New York was $20 million annual fund. At that point, I got to spend a lot of time with a lot of priests and a lot of parishes. About 165, I actually looked yesterday, it was about 165 parishes throughout the entire Archdiocese of New York, ranging from Sullivan County, New York, Westchester, Ulster County, Rockland County, Orange County, and then down into Manhattan and Staten Island. So I was kind of all over the Archdiocese. I have a lot of experience with priests. It was one of my favorite jobs I've ever had, because I had every meeting I had, I could have some spiritual guidance. Especially while I was learning my faith again, I was able to go and, all right, meeting's over, and I have about, canon law or whatever it might be. After some time doing that, I took a job. I took a promotion as director of board management for the Archdiocese of New York, and I ran the day-to-day operations and strategic operations for 6 different 501c3 organizations at the Archdiocese of New York. It was a great opportunity. It was a lot of work. We had the Catholic Foundation New York, which at the time had $150 million. I had the Catholic Communal Fund of the Archdiocese of New York, which was a donor advised fund, which had about $15 million. There was the Al Smith Foundation, which hosts a really amazing dinner every year, and every 4 years usually there's two presidential nominees that get to go to the dinner and rip into each other. We had the seminary board and the trustees of St. Patrick's Cathedral, which I ran the development committee for and helped fundraise the last $20 million for the restoration of St. Patrick's Cathedral. So I got to do a lot of really great things. I didn't really know what a donor advised fund was at the time. I learned board governance through this whole process. I made a lot of really great friends with a lot of really important people in New York City. And I realized that I hate fundraising. And I wasn't a big fan of working for the diocese that much anymore, just the bureaucracy of it. And I love the Archdiocese of New York. I live in the Archdiocese of Newark. I love everybody I worked for. I don't have a bad thing to say. I'm not someone to like bureaucracy, and there's a lot of it in a diocese. And I knew that I was called to do more, and I fell in love with the donor advised fund. I realized that there's a lot of operational things that could be improved to make it a more efficient donor advised fund. I also realized that our market, we were not a comparable product in the market. We were all on Excel spreadsheets on paper.
Dennis, quick, just for people who might not know what a donor advised fund.
Oh yes, I'm sorry.
What is the thing, and why'd you fall in love with it?
So a donor advised fund is it's a philanthropic investment account for individuals. So rather than making outright gifts to organizations, you could create an account. You can name the account almost like your own foundation. You don't have to worry about the IRS filings and all the legal work that goes around with that. It takes literally 15 minutes to set one of these up. Then you make contributions into the fund. You get the potential tax deduction on your taxes like you would be giving to any other 501c3 organization. But then you have it, so the money is no longer yours, but you have advisory powers over the funds in your account. You have the advisory rights on how the money is invested within whatever investment options that sponsoring organization has. And then you have advisory rights on grant recommendations. So you can make grant recommendations out. Then the 501c3 does their due diligence to ensure that it's an actual 501c3 and whatever other due diligence requirements there might be for the various programs. And you make giving that way. One of the great, some of the great features are, again, you get to name the fund. You can build charitable legacy. You get the immediate tax deduction. So at the end of the year gift planning, you don't have to say, I have, what happens a lot of time are appreciated stock gifts. And you don't have to figure out what charities you're going to send that appreciated stock to at that day. You can just send it all to the donor advised fund and then spend it over time, figuring out where you want that to go. And last but not least, you get what I consider federally subsidized giving, because you have tax-free growth. on the potential tax-free growth on the investment of the fund. So you could plan your giving. Now with a lot of the changes in the IRS on the tax code, you can take a larger deduction in 1 year to go over the limit, and then the next years you take the standard deduction, but you're still giving away the same amount of money that you would give in that 3 to 4 year period that you would want to do. So there's a lot of really, and there's just a lot of really cool tricks that you can do with complex asset giving. And I fell in love initially with the fact that we had a matching gift opportunity at St. Patrick's Cathedral, and it was a $10 million gift that had the option. Well, it was up to $10 million that would be matched dollar for dollar, and we had a 3-month period to raise that money. And what I had to do was find donors for that gift. And I said, well, we have 75 funds within the Archdiocese Donor Advised Fund. Why don't I just ask them? Which never happened before. So quickly wrote an email, sent an email out to 35 of them, those donors who had a history of giving to the cathedral, either through the Donor Advised Fund or just giving directly to the cathedral. And within 24 hours, I raised $1 million, which was then matched dollar for dollar. So that was it was pretty cool. It showed me that there's, one, the money I already received, the money was already given away technically. Now you're just looking for places to help. So I love one of my favorite things about the Donor Advised Fund is you're not asking for a gift, you're asking for help. Or you're from the Donor Advised Fund, gifts from the Donor Advised Fund, you're asking for help, you're not asking for an outright gift. The money's already given away, now it's just, they're just looking for a place to put it. So that's why I fell in love with Donor Advised Funds, and that's what a Donor Advised Fund is, high level.
And Dennis, one of the ways you would explain Donor Advised Funds to me that might help everybody is just to say that I think this was you, or maybe it was Anthony Pienta, but they basically said the super wealthy, everybody knows who the super wealthy are and their family foundations, but this is like the pretty wealthy that nobody knows about. And it's kind of it's a way for these types of people to be able to give as if they had a lot of the benefits of the super wealthy. And
it's the everyday man's foundation. It's the everyday Vanderbilt. I have the Gerber Family Fund, and my daughters will one day succeed in having 3 of their own Donor Advised Fund through our fund. And it's something that, one, we're teaching a legacy. We're teaching our daughters now about philanthropy. They're 7, 6, and 8, 6, and 4. So we're teaching them now. We sit them down, we talk to them, we give them some money each to make gifts to charities. We tell them where we give. We give to our parish, we give to our parish school, we give to Franciscan University of Steubenville, and we give to a pro-life organization called Brave Love. That's where mommy and daddy give. What would you like to do with your $150 this year? And this past year, they gave $100 to their parish, and then they gave $50 each to the school. So you set the habit now. And what the Donor Advised Fund allows is it allows you a really great tool to encourage and to include intergenerational participation in giving. And the great thing, so I described what the Donor Advised Fund is on the broad level. The largest Donor Advised funds out there are Fidelity and Charles Schwab. Fidelity Charitable brings down on average $16 billion on an annual basis. They're the largest charities in the country. They're getting better at their grant rates. There's a Christian Donor Advised Fund called National Christian Foundation. They bring in about $2 billion on an annual basis, and they grant out about $1 billion. And what National Christian Foundation is really great in doing is helping to guide people towards really great causes, which is something else I like. I like helping out a lot of these causes. So anyway, so I found myself in 2016 getting to the point where I thought that this is a really great tool, but I don't believe in the diocese in our surrounding area anybody's doing it really well. And it'd be better if I can pull together into a platform for each diocese. Dioceses are very competitive with each other when it comes to fundraising, and especially in the New York tri-state area. You have Bridgeport, you have Newark, you have New York, you have Rockville Center, which is Long Island, you have the Diocese of Brooklyn and Queens, you have a few others in New Jersey, and they're all, they're all competing, and St. Patrick's Cathedral usually wins. So they don't really want to work with the diocese themselves. So I presented to the board of the Donor Advised Fund a new structure where we would reincorporate the organization outside the diocese. Cardinal Dolan would no longer be on our board of directors, but we would then open up to Newark, to the various dioceses, and we'd start working with them, creating their own portal, using some best in class software, creating their own portal, and making efficiencies in the donor advised, in the Catholic donor advised fund market. The board agreed, thought it was a great idea, and then a few days later, they said that they no longer liked the idea because not having Cardinal Dolan on the board was a big hit to them, and that was important. So they said, we want you, they said, Dennis, we're going to close this down because it just wasn't working. The pricing wasn't working. The diocese wasn't liking it, so they wanted to shut the donor advised fund down. So they said, Dennis, we're going to pay you a lot more money to work just on that project. I left the diocese at this. I'm sorry, I kind of skipped around a little bit, but I resigned from the Archdiocese of New York in the summer of 2016, a week before my wife gave birth to our third daughter, and yeah, so she made me leave the Archdiocese, and she said that I was not called to work there any longer, and in her prayer she knew that I had a higher calling and that she wanted me to quit. So that's what I did after a lot of arguing.
I want to pause on that one because I love this part of the story. And so what were you hearing in your own prayers or thoughts? And you had the idea already, you kind of wanted to leave, but the stability, just talk a little bit more about this dilemma of the argument.
Yeah. I was fearful of failure, fearful of that, not being able to provide for our family. And my wife, we right before we found out we were pregnant with our third baby, my wife and I decided that she would stay home to take care of the children. So she was leaving a really great job for that. And I just worked really hard to make ends meet. But it was so tenuous at the time that I was afraid that if I left my job at the diocese, there'd be nothing else. I don't know how I was going to get paid. I didn't know this. I was not a born entrepreneur. I just knew that I couldn't stand being stuck in an office for a bureaucracy any longer. Yeah. Not doing what I really wanted to do. So we got into a large fight. My wife went away for a weekend, and she called me up. She said, "You have to quit." I said, "I can't quit. How are you going to get paid? How are we going to pay our bill, rent, food?" She said, "It'll work. It's all going to work." So that next day, I got a phone call from a friend of mine asking me if I wanted to consult for an organization, a fundraising consultancy, and making exactly the same amount of money that I was making at the diocese. And then 2 days after that, the donor advised fund asked me if I can stay, work for them independently from the diocese, and they were paying me. So I was making more money than I was going to be working at the diocese. And then 2 days later, I decided to quit my job. And which was for me, it was very scary because the net wasn't there any longer. Mm-hmm. Knowing that I was going to get a regular paycheck. I had these contracts, and now I had to produce on these contracts and do something with that. But I still, at that point, I still didn't know what my end goal was. It was kind of my leap back into the faith. I started going to mass, not knowing why I was going to mass. I started going to confession and receiving the Eucharist, not knowing exactly why I was doing it. And it took me some time to really realize why I was doing what I was doing, but I just knew I should be doing it. It's good this time, both times really, my wife kind of pushed me forward and told me, this is what you need to do.
If we ever do a podcast of this, we got to get your wife on.
Yeah, yeah, no, she's a great second in this conversation. She's an amazing woman who I get emotional thinking about her, but she's an amazing person, and she's done for me personally. She saved my life multiple times, and I still have to learn to just listen to everything that she says because she's always right.
So Dennis, we have a question related to this from Dave. Dave, I don't know if you can jump on, but it's always fun to hear the voices. I can ask it for you if you can. I'll just give a moment of silence.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
So I was just wondering, any insight into why your wife was so certain things would work out? Like any instinct from prayer? Like what? I would just love to hear more about her heart.
Yeah. So the first night that my wife and I met, we were in Hoboken, New Jersey. I don't know if anybody knows Hoboken, but it's a small city, right outside New York City, in New Jersey. A lot of young people, a lot of bars, and we were I played on a football team, a co-ed recreational football team with friends of hers that went to Franciscan, and the whole team we're all mass going Catholics. I had no clue because they never invited me to mass. She came to visit from friend from Franciscan, and we were out at a bar, and then later that night after talking to her, we kissed, and she said that from that moment she knew that she met the man she was going to marry. She's very connected, in my opinion. She's very in tune with what the Holy Spirit is telling her. Her ears are open to what the Holy Spirit says. Mine aren't always, or most of the time, never. I walk blindly, and I trust that she's going to lead me the right direction. So she just, her prayer life is really intense that way, and she listens really well.
I love that story because to me, it's the intersection between faith, entrepreneurship, providence being real. And I think of the 5 loaves and 2 fishes where you know exactly how you don't have what you need, but you bring that to the Lord and then he responds. But there's this moment where in that story where you're in suspense, kind of, like you're floating in the air.
I mean, yeah, and several months of suspense because I started along the way with this, consulting at a Catholic school on fundraising, and still working for the CCF of New York, Catholic Communal Fund for the Archdiocese of New York, and then I got invited to a dinner, and I sat next to a hedge fund manager in New York City who is an entrepreneur, huge Catholic donor, and his name's Sean Filer. He's the chairman of my board. We sat next to each other, and he says, so what do you do? And I told him what I did, and he said, we need to do this for the Catholic Church. And then that's really how Catholic Communal Fund, or CCF giving, is Catholic Communal Fund, and I couldn't use the word Catholic because of canon law. So it was CCF giving came to be. It was founded as a 501c3. Again, now this whole time I thought I was just doing what I do, which is I work in the nonprofit sector. Formed a donor advised fund that has our own donor advised fund, a Catholic donor advised fund, where the granting would be the due diligence on the granting would be in line with the Catholic faith. They don't need to necessarily be Catholic organizations. And then the investments, was key that the investments were managed in a Catholic, according to the USCCB guidelines, at least in a Catholic way. So we don't have one side fighting the other. that's when I met Sean, and then from Sean introduced me to Knights of Columbus Asset Advisors, and I met Tony Monopoly, who's the president and CIO for the Knights of Columbus. At the time, it was $23 billion that they managed. Now it's about 27. And he said, he essentially said, we would love to be the investment management piece of CCF giving. And I said, well, I see something bigger than this, because I see a donor advised fund for the Knights of Columbus. Yeah, we just hit it off. And then that's when things started, happening. So 2 months after that, I was talking to Sean, about funding. It's like, well, we're going to run out of money, because donor advised funds are really hard to start if you're not with a huge institution. And so I came up with a 5-year business plan, and I needed about $1 million to get the staff, the real estate, everything that I needed to get by. So I asked Tony and the Knights of Columbus for an operating gift of $1 million for a 5-year period. And Tony said, we love you, Dennis, and we want to support you, but we're not making a gift of $1 million. I said, oh no. I said, I don't know how I'm going to get paid. All right. And then he continued, and he said, we don't want to invest. We don't want to give. We want to invest. And I was in his office when he said this to me in New Haven, and he said, stop thinking like a nonprofit, stop thinking like a charity, and start thinking like a businessman. I said, I don't know any other way to think. He said, well, create an LLC and administer donor advised funds through the LLC, and we'll invest. And that's when we started. I said, okay. So I went home and I created the LLC and created Immaculata Philanthropic Group. That's how we were going to build this. So along the way, I started forming the relationships. This is all May of 2017, June. And, I had some relationships with some organizations already that we were going to be private labeling their donor advised funds for them, switch the conversation around. And then as this was going on, the Knights of Columbus started, the process to invest in us, and we valued the company, and we got evaluate. They valued us, and they were going to invest up to 19.9%, and there were some other individuals related that were going to invest as well, up to 49% of what I needed. And going through the process, it was a great valuation. And going through the process, Tony and I guess it was August of 2017. I said, Tony, I'm not going to be able to pay my mortgage next month. And I didn't pay my mortgage this month. And I owe my father-in-law some money. And this is taking a lot longer than I thought. I said, yeah, it is. Why don't we just buy you? And and I immediately said yes.
No price negotiation.
Yeah, no. I said yes. And then we figured out, what was I really worth? I was really worth not much. I was worth the idea. And he said, Dennis, we'll acquire the LLC. You'll get your board to change the name of the 501c3 to Knights of Columbus Charitable Fund, and you'll come work for us, and you'll have all the support you need to build what you want to build, because we see that this is the future, one of the big pillars of the future of the Knights of Columbus. And by December 2018, so it was 2018 when all this happened. The LLC happened in 2018, and then December 2018. So that was May, and then December 2018, the day before my anniversary, which is right around, I forget I forget what feast days, but they're important feast days, and I should know this. They're on the 10th of December is the day that all this happened, and my anniversary is the 11th. So it was right around Guadalupe and Immaculate Conception, I think, and so it's a good time of the year. And right before Christmas, so I was able to get like Christmas presents for my kids that year and pay my mortgage. And
were you saying that all that unfolded after you left the Archdiocese?
yeah, from July 2016 through December 2018.
A number of the fellow entrepreneurs I speak to, you know, they ask this very classic question of when do I commit? When do I make the leap to doing this full time? You know, and I think when you involve the faith, a danger is that you can sometimes presume of God what you feel like He should do for you. Like, I'm entitled as an entrepreneur, Providence catching me. But on the other side, there are times when Providence is asking us to make the leap. I mean, I got to think that your wife believed enough about your skill set, the need in the marketplace somehow that she believed in the need that, and you know what I mean? It wasn't just a blind, God will take care of us.
No, you know, well, she knew what I believed in. She knew my belief in what the church needs, which is we need to. She believed in what I knew. So she believed in me enough, and she knew how passionate I was for this. That in her prayer life, her prayer was, you know, listening to what the Holy Spirit's telling her, which is, Dennis, quit your job and do this. It's going to work out. No matter what, it'll work out, and it's only money. And to me, it was we need this, and I need to be able to get this done.
Makes sense.
You know, that during that whole time, I mean, the whole time when we were running out of money, and I wasn't paying myself, I had somebody else that I had to pay, and I had to pay for our software system. I had to build the software. I spent, you know, of my own money, you know, $100,000 of my own money to build everything that we built, and I took out credit card debt, and I just did all the wrong thing. I just did nothing right. I just knew that I needed to do this, and you know, when Tony said, you know, we love you, Dennis, and we want to make sure that you're taken care of and your family's taken care of, you'll be okay. Even before they acquired us, I knew it was going to be okay, because they were there. So, you know, this is the fastest thing that the Knights of Columbus, I think, have ever done, because they don't work fast. It's another big bureaucracy, but they've apparently given me, they trust me enough that they've given me this big, they understand that I know this market. They understand that I'm bringing new relationships into the Knights that the Knights have never had before. So, you know, I sold them on the same idea of what we should be doing, and, you know, how, as the Knights of Columbus, 138-year-old organization, we are the leaders in charity in the church, and we should promote that. And yeah, that's how I guess how I did it. So,
well, and Dennis, I want to riff on that last statement, leaders of charity in the church, for a second, because that's one of the prompts for this group. And in a sense, what I feel like is this group is really just the first, it's the tip of the spear of some type of movement that we think is happening with inspired entrepreneurs. And what is so compelling about when you talk about donor advised funds, it's very clear you know about donor advised funds, but when you also add the stories on it, like, this is how a family learns charity inside the home. And the donor advised fund is an educational vehicle for families to practice charity all together.
Yeah.
And if for everybody on the call right now, what I want you to imagine is that the structure of it, it's tapping into a big underserved group that doesn't know how to do that very well right now. Families struggle practicing charity with transparency between kids and children. Well, my dad was an estate tax attorney, and so we saw lots of this. Like, there are seminars on the generational gaps that happen between giving. So parents might even be very charitable, but it's hard to pass that down as a discipline. So I want everybody just to appreciate that need in the country for families to practice charity together. But I also want you all to appreciate how powerful that can be. So if you essentially imagine a funding army, like Knights is an appropriate term for this type of thing. So there is an army that can actually be marshaled to the support and call of inspired entrepreneurs like yourselves, all for the support of a co-responsible laity, like this is a component of it, and Dennis is helping build it and is a partner in this with all of you. And so that's what I find so moving about Dennis. Dennis's personal side of the story is very moving to me, but like a Russian novel, like the family story is not different than the war that's going on. And so you are all participating in the co-responsible movement, but it's all made up of personal stories. And you're going to be operating at multiple altitudes of this whole thing. And Dennis, it's a privilege to have you just sharing the personal thing so you can be a human in the fight with all of us. So that's wonderful.
Thank you. Yeah, I think I mentioned before that I was trying to get out of fundraising, but I think my entire career, I got out of college. I went to work for my fraternity, which is that Delta Kappa Epsilon. That's a club, but I worked for my fraternity nationally, and I fell into fundraising through there. And I left to try to find some real professional fundraising guide, mentorship. And I just learned that I wanted to be, one, selfishly, I wanted to be on the other side of the conversation. I wanted to not be the one asking for the check. I wanted to be the one giving the check. And I worked for the American University in Cairo, and that was a really great experience. But again, I wanted to get out of fundraising because I wasn't drawn to the mission. So then I went to the Archdiocese of New York. It was just all these things just always led me back to development work. And then finally I found this, and it was a really great blend of development work, but for a cause that I really truly believe in, and where I see that there's a lot of really great Catholic apostolates out there that need this kind of support and this help. And then also that business development, for-profit, aggressive business development style. So I liked being able to take the two and put it into the other. But it has to be something that you, like, in my opinion, if I'm selling it, I have to really, really believe in it, and not just believe in the idea that it's going to work, but also ethically and morally believe in it.
Perfect. So John Cannon, you asked the right next question. I'd love for you to do it if you can go off mute.
Sure, be happy to. Thanks, John. Yeah, Dennis, thanks for taking time and being here. It's a privilege. So, yeah, how do emerging, how do type of organizations that are probably in this room develop a relationship with the charitable fund that you have, and then like what do the mechanics look like from the partner institute, the recipient partner institution perspective?
So, and John Henry, I think you might be able to answer this. So these are all for-profit entrepreneurial entities, correct?
Mix.
Or a mix. So for the nonprofits, it's easy. So large institutional nonprofits, like we partner with several dioceses right now, the Napa Institute, all these other, the Focus. We provide a private label platform for them. So we have everything that we have, and we put their branding on it and give them all the tools to be able to sell it. And then we administer it on the back end. The smaller nonprofit organization out there, we would like to be the tool that organization could use for their planned giving. So we have a few partnerships now with some smaller entities. I mean, they're handshakes. They're not, where their development team can consult with us and work with us to get their donors, rather than being in a Fidelity or a Charles Schwab donor advised fund, to be in a truly Catholic donor advised fund with Knights of Columbus Charitable Fund. We essentially kind of silo those donors into their own grouping, but it's all under Knights of Columbus Charitable Fund. And we just work with you directly that way. So that's how we
can we actually almost walk through an example? Martin, are you a nonprofit?
Yes, we are a nonprofit.
So what I'm wondering, could you just give a sentence or two on what Harbor is doing? And let's just walk a quick example, like how would Harbor do this? Martin,
Sure.
you might start with the sentence.
So Harbor is aspiring to create a network of houses of discernment or Catholic co-living spaces to help young people to respond to their callings.
So Martin, you have prospective donors. Do you have a donor pool or people that help support the organization?
Rather informally, the Archdiocese of San Francisco has, let's not say pool, let's say a jacuzzi. How's that?
Yeah. Okay. So one thing that we'd be able to do with an organization like yours is we'd be able to expand the scale of your donor pool, so your prospective donor pool. So we're rebuilding our website for hopefully the fall to include what I'm calling right now just inspirations, so donor inspirations, so where there's a lot of people that can see our website, go to our website and say, who should I be giving to, or our donors themselves. Hey, here's a great organization that's in your area doing something that you think is really, that you also are interested in. You should give to this organization, or through Knights of Columbus, the Knights of Columbus councils. Hey, here's an organization that you should be giving to. And we just try to help inspire people and connect the donors with the organization. So that's something that we would be able to do with you to help you. Beautiful. Now, we're rolling out. So this year, we've been really heavy pushing the private label last year because just the way that things were set up. So we created 10 private label partnerships with different organizations. This year, we are expanding the Knights of Columbus Charitable Fund offering, and we're essentially our sales force, the Knights. So how many of you really know what the Knights of Columbus is? An insurance company. So it's a fraternal men's organization that is an insurance company. So it was founded upon protecting the family. Knights of Columbus Asset Advisors was formed 5 years ago, which was originally created to help institutions invest their money according to the Catholic teaching, and now they're moving into the individual retail space, and I'm the third leg in this system, which is now, so they're protecting, they're growing, and now we're giving back. So our insurance agents, the 1,000 field agents throughout 87 general agencies in the United States, are going to be selling that idea of protect, grow, give back. So we're launching that in October, and that's really where our, we see in the next 5 years, 1% of the Knights of Columbus, which is between 1.8 million to 2 million members of the Knights, will open up a fund. And we're also launching for the 12,000 councils in the United States. This will be their giving platform that they use to actually receive 501c3 credible gifts, which most of them don't have the ability to do that now. And then also to make grants out to organizations in their communities that are doing really great things. So that's how we would connect donors to you.
Dennis, Jose, if you're on, I know you have to run in a second. I'd love for you to verbally say this question, or I can do it if you're not there.
Oh, I'm here still. Hello, Dennis. Just wondering if you guys also help do either fiscal sponsoring and also help in the process of creating a nonprofit and this whole developing, because you said small nonprofits,
yeah.
You help them with the development team, but some of us don't even have a development team. We are the development team, right?
So we do fiscal sponsorships. I don't have the staff to do the development for others, but I know people. I have a network of friends who are fundraising consultants and people that help out a lot with that. And then from a legal side, I have some resources as well that can help, mainly through Napa Legal Institute and a few others. We also do, we do fiscal sponsorships, we do single organization funds, so we can also, for acting 501c3 charities, we can also be the intake system for donations.
Cool.
And we take care of all the acknowledgments and everything else, and works out pretty well.
Great, thank you.
All right.
What are fiscal sponsorships? So a fiscal sponsorship is a relationship between a 501c3 charity and an organization that either does not have their 501c3 status yet, or a charitable purpose, or an international organization. So, for example, I have a fiscal sponsorship program with the Rosary Shrine in London, which is a Dominican order parish in London, England, and they fundraise in the United States. They're trying to do fundraising in the United States, but they were having problems with donating to an international organization from individuals. So we accept all the donations, and then they will request from us on a quarterly basis or a monthly basis money to go back to their organization, and then we can do the international grant one time. So we give out the tax receipt, the U.S. tax receipt to the U.S. donors, and then they can receive that money that way. Do you also financially support organizations? We don't financially support right now. I don't have that level yet. Hopefully soon. The Knights of Columbus do, but not Knights of Columbus Charitable Fund. I help try to influence that, and we're redoing a whole granting scenario for that. But so fiscal sponsorships are a way for charitable endeavors to receive 501c3 gifts without actually being a 501c3 yet, or so you might test the market. You might not be registered to fundraise in a certain state, so you could fundraise through us in a different state. So there's a whole bunch of different purposes to have a fiscal sponsorship. Usually fiscal sponsors are community foundations, local community foundations, and they have a very high fee. So between 10 and 15% of a gift goes back to the fiscal sponsor. We do it for 5%. Again, the beauty of the Knights of Columbus, I could do pretty much anything I want to do, and not have to worry about the amount of money we're taking. We take on a little bit of risk because we have to ensure that you're actually doing what you say you're doing, what your charitable purpose is with that money. So we have financial reporting that we have to do for our own auditing purposes. So,
Dennis, I want to make sure I might have misunderstood. Are you saying that your organization is capable of, so Etche Films with Dave, I know they're seeking a fiscal sponsor. Are you saying that your organization can be a fiscal sponsor?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Edward, just jump in.
Sorry. How would one pursue a fiscal sponsorship with the Knights?
Send me an email and I could send you the application. It's a quick application. It's a little longer application than a donor advised fund application. It's not online, so it's a paper application.
Just froze on my end.
Yeah, he froze.
I think this might be one of the cooler parts about this whole thing right now too.
Yeah. Edward, I think your question just made him freeze.
I know, yeah.
I guess it's possible, but I just don't want to.
I'll send you that email right now.
Right, never. Just out of curiosity, from people on, just throw it in general Slack if you're interested in pursuing that relationship. Like Dave, I assume you guys are just because we talked about it, but yeah, okay.
Yeah, because Dave, isn't that 5% is pretty low compared to what some of what you all were looking at? No,
it's very low. So Dennis, our project is it's a documentary film project. There's
he's not on.
Yeah, Dave, he froze.
Oh, got it. No problem. Sorry, I didn't catch that. Yeah. So we're thinking of working with this org called IDA, which is a documentary industry foundation that operates as a fiscal sponsor, but their percentage of take might be, I'm guessing, is higher than 5%. You know, so we definitely would want to look into the possibility of working with the Knights. That could be a great, a great situation for us. So. Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. I think we'll give him another minute and see if he comes back on. Dennis has expressed interest in participating in Demo Day in some way, so it might be virtual or live. So just know that he's. Oh.
Sorry.
You're good.
Was that me?
We were just joking about how Edward said, "Will you be my fiscal sponsor?" and you said, "See ya."
I'd be more than happy to. I can send you the information on it. It's a very legal looking document right now because I just have not had the time to have anybody make it look pretty. Yeah, it's a pretty easy process to set up, and then the fiscal sponsorship, you can, we just set one up and received about. They had a big event yesterday. So the Global Institute of Church Management just had a big event yesterday through iBlock, and we raised a lot of money through them yesterday, and it's very easy. I mean, we do credit, it's credit card and e-check, and we could take security gifts and checks for them. So.
Yeah, Dennis, I'm seeing a lot of people interested. If I could imagine, you could even just send the form to me. I can blast it out to everybody.
Yep. Yeah, be more than happy to help.
Okay.
That's what we're here for. So.
Wonderful. Well, I think that's the last question I see. Anybody else have anything else? Hearing nothing. So, Dennis, the way we typically wrap these up is the group just stays on and says what they got out of it, and that helps us summarize it in our notes that we then pass out to everybody. You're welcome to join us in that if you want, if you just want to hear what seemed to resonate with people.
Yeah, that'd be great.
For everyone on, we can always just use the next 5-10 minutes just